alcohol was my identity. I was a drinker. Like that is literally how me and my husband identified. Oh yeah, we're drinkers. Partying
Mhm.
on Friday and Saturday night and then waking up on Sunday and going into church, and I'm in choir at the time, well, a lot of this was going on, and just I'm like, "Are you really gonna be able to sing?"
Hello, Sober on Purpose family. This is a preview for the Blessed Family Recovery Summit that's happening October 24th. Completely free summit and crazy amounts of goodies that go with it. All kinds of freebies from very special guests. And this is Amy Edwards. So we're going to talk a little bit, but we're not going to give you the full story. I want you to show up at the summit. You can do that in your jammies. It's fantastic. This is our second annual one. And Amy is Joy on the Other Side coaching. She has such a tremendous story of Amy 2.0 and marriage 2.0. So Amy, give us just a teaser, because we talk a lot about this in the summit, the Blessed Family Recovery Summit on October 24th. But give us just the teaser of Amy's life and what her identity was before the change, before the 2.0.
Yeah. Well, I mean, quick abbreviation is that as many people, I was somebody who started drinking as a teen, progressed through my adult life, and then as you and I were talking, the thing that I came up with was, for me, alcohol was my identity. I was a drinker. Like that is literally how me and my husband identified. Oh yeah, we're drinkers. We said that. That's how we lived our life. I mean, and not in a bad way, but it was like every social event we went to, boy, I hope it has a free bar. I hope they have some cocktails. Oh, do they have drink tickets? Those were that was just kind of the way we operated. And we never lost a job. We never had any issues. We never had a DUI. We were the drink responsibly parents. That it was kind of the way our life was. But as I was sharing with you, the sneaky thing about alcohol for some of us is that we create this habit over a marriage. I mean, my husband and I are going to be celebrating 25 years together.
Yeah.
But I woke up first and I'm like, I don't like where I'm at with alcohol. It was something that at one time I could control and be like, oh yeah, 1 drink, 2 drinks on the weekend. Over time, it progressed into this habit that I was starting to use for medicinal reasons. I'm not happy with this. But over time, like, alcohol just kind of comes around. It's like a frenemy. It's super nice to you. Let's do this. This will be so much fun. But then the next morning, waiting for you in the mirror just to stab you right in the back and be like, who are you? Who are you? And then all the negative thoughts, all those awful negative thoughts and everything that I wanted out of life, the meaningful things. I wanted to have this family that, we set out to have, and I just was never happy with it. And that was fueled from the alcohol, that was fueling the negative thoughts, that was fueling really what the enemy was doing to me on this cycle of shame and guilt. And then I'm going to drink more and it makes me feel better. And then it just keeps going around. So that's kind of the really abbreviated backstory. And then, as we were going into the pandemic, I was just like, you know what? There was this wake up in the middle of the night and it was like, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to die. I mean, that there wasn't an audible, but that was the gut. That was what I was feeling in my gut and my heart. And I was just like, you know what? I gotta do something. And so I, as many of us do, we pick up that phone, scrolling, And up popped this gal that I had been following, and it was like, let's do a 21-day reset. And so here I am, a 21-day reset, and let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Am I going to keep drinking? And my plan was to take a break, and as you know, get control, and then I can go back to drinking like normal people.
Let's go back, Amy. Let's go back to the identity piece.
Okay.
The identity piece of we're drinkers. This is what we do. We run with other people who are drinkers. Now, you're also churchgoers. You're also job holders. You're also family members. You're also raising kids. You know, we begin to define our identity. But what I thought was really interesting is that wake up in the morning and that voice of the enemy is just going clip, 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 clip. What was going through your head when you were standing in front of the mirror?
Why did you do this again? Why didn't you, why are you drinking so much? Why can't you just stop at 1 or 2?
Right.
Why can't you do that? And then it would be you're such a fraud. You're a failure. Why can't you do what you say you're going to do? You said yesterday morning you weren't going to drink, but then you did. Those were the types of messages that were coming. Then it would be like, I'm going to go to work. Oh man, what, like the fraud, like, I'm a fraud. I'm going into work. I'm doing these things. I'm going into church. Church was the worst. Church was the worst because we called it our 5 o'clock somewhere, partying on Friday and Saturday night, and then waking up on Sunday and going into church. And I'm in choir at the time, where a lot of this was going on. And I'm like, are you really going to be able to sing? And sitting there and just being in this whole state of, I don't even know, just misalignment.
Right. Right.
One foot in the world, and 1 foot in church. We are like the appearance. Oh, here they come. They're just a little family.
Which, if we broaden this out, let's think about, we were talking about this identity piece. So that could be standing in front of the mirror going, I ate that whole pan of Rice Krispie treats or brownies or gallon of ice cream, whatever is your go-to. Enemy is barking at you saying, how do you not call yourself gluttonous? How do you not call yourself this? That's not the design from God. Or it could be, I yelled at my kids yesterday. That's not the person I want to be. How do I show up at church and play this role?
Yes. I'm putting on the mask.
Authentically. Yes, the mask piece. Talk a little bit more about the mask piece of what you had to do to maintain your lifestyle.
I mean, you would have to get up. This is what's crazy, because my husband and I are podcasters and we're vloggers. And like, I didn't realize that I was doing this until looking back, but I would go down most days and take a couple of ibuprofens before I would go out, get ready and everything, make yourself up, you look okay, always put together. Always put together, but then coming down going, all right, now we got to go out. All right, we're going to do this. Grab a couple of ibuprofens. All right, have that, have the coffee. Always had the coffee, which I love coffee, but I really needed coffee. So you put that on and then out the door you go. And then you've had kids, then you get in the car and you're arguing all the way to church or all the way to wherever you're going to go. And that's when you're in it, you don't realize that is all being fueled by alcohol. I mean, all of that
is food or emotional, dysregulation. It doesn't have to be that. Or oh my goodness, if you can't see us, we're holding up our phones. I stayed up too late watching whatever I'm watching, at that point in time. Where I'm going with this is this mask piece. You have, in my mind, Amy, tell me, what do you think? You've pretty much abandoned yourself. You are trying to make yourself look the way that you perceive you should look rather than saying, God, what is it that you've got for me today? Where's my integrity? Where's my authenticity? Because
Oh,
when I
absolutely.
do that, I don't feel authentic. I don't feel like when I've yelled at my kids or plowed under that thing of brownies, or, not giving my best at work, whatever. I'm like, God, just don't look. Just don't look, just don't look
Yeah.
at this.
And you go into all of your relationships, there's a different mask that you're putting on,
Mm-hmm.
like, depending on who you're with. And that was really hard, because then when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're looking at the person that you don't even know who she is.
I've lost her. I lost her a long time ago. She's this for the PTA. She's this for the sports team. She's this for the Sunday school. She's this for that. And when I get home, I'm exhausted.
Yeah. You're exhausted, and you have all of those. For me, I had all of these thoughts that just kept going and kept going and kept going. You didn't do this. You should have done that. Why did you say that? Why are you doing this with them? Why are my kids doing this? Why aren't my kids like them? Why is my husband, whatever it is? It was all of these comparison games. Because I think also in all of this, with social media, with I would say a lot with social media, is that we are constantly seeing that comparison, like, oh, look at my friends, look how good their kids are, look what their kids are doing. My kids are great. I just want to say that right now, my kids are
Right.
awesome. But you sit there and you play these games with yourself, and then you look at somebody, and we were talking, I'm just, the food thing too.
Mm-hmm.
When I would drink, I mean, it just led to, everything else was not, the food and because it was like, well, who cares?
Right. It's that giving up. And that's where I think when we go back to scripture and God says, take every thought captive. I'm pretty sure it's Paul, but you can correct
Yep,
me.
it's Paul. It is Paul.
Paul says, take every thought captive. And that has really been something that has come to me in this season right now of, what are you thinking about? If you're thinking about walking into church and there's Rice Krispie treats and there's creamer and there's all of this, so you can tell food is a big issue for me. And I'm not taking those thoughts captive. I'm like, oh, that would taste good and that would feel good. For
Yeah.
the few minutes that it would feel good, I'm going to pay a huge price. I'm not condemning anybody for eating that. I'm just looking at the price I'm going to pay for that, because I liken that to, we went out and we had some drinks and we had some fun last night, and now I need the coffee and the ibuprofen. I'm not waking up with joy.
No.
And I don't know about you, Amy, but I want to wake up with joy. I had a very young man say to me, I try to go to bed happy. In all of my years, I've never thought about that. But isn't that what the Lord says to us?
Yeah.
Even when he says there's tears in the evening, but there's joy in the morning.
In the
Well,
morning.
if I'm in a food stupor, or if I'm in an emotional sobriety hangover because I let somebody have it the day before, I don't wake up happy. I wake up, like you said, I wake up beating myself up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I like about what Paul says too, what you said, is that the second part of that is we have to then make those thoughts obedient to Christ.
Yes.
We're supposed to capture the thoughts, make them obedient to Christ. And it's not as a punishment. It's to protect ourselves. That thought that I am not enough or I am worthless is not true. It is not true. We are to capture that thought and say, no, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am a daughter of the King of Kings.
Even when
Even
my filter's not on, my kitchen is trashed, I struggle into church. We have a very informal church, so occasionally I show up in jeans and a t-shirt and my Chaco sandals, because I would rather get there than to worry about my appearance enough so that I'm not getting there.
Yes.
And that's when the enemy comes at me. That's the obedience of those thoughts, because you know what? We get to choose.
Yeah. And
How
when
many
you
of
talk,
us are actually choosing?
yeah, well, and the thing is with letting go of whatever that habit is, giving it over. And I just read this the other day and I wish I would have like found it, like wrote this down, but literally taking what it is that you have and giving it to Christ and burying it with them at the foot. Saying,
Yeah.
I'm taking all this. Let's dig this up. Let's bury this together. It's over. And for me, even when I quit drinking, and you were talking about the emotional sobriety part of it, there was still a part of me, even though I'm doing the right things, I'm getting out there. There were things that I still was not doing. And one of those was, we're called to use our gift and talents, right? I mean, we are called.
Absolutely, because we were just talking about this the other day. The 5 talents and the 10 talents and the 1 talent, who's in trouble? It's the person who doesn't understand the character of God and says, "You are a harsh master, so I buried it," which is not God at all. I mean, it's
No,
amazing when you read that correctly. And I'm
yes.
sorry I interrupted you because I'm so excited
No,
about
but
that.
that's
We
so
are
true
called to use our talents.
because after I quit drinking, and we had moved churches by this time. So we're now going to anyways, our church, our current church is wonderful, but it is a contemporary service. And
Mm.
we have an amazing worship team. I mean, it literally is like going to a Christian concert every Sunday. It's great. And I have gone and I love it now. At the first, it was not. And there was this part of me that was like, you should, you should, you should inquire about being on the worship team. And for the
Mm.
longest time, I was just my excuse. And it was, I really believe from the enemy, no, you're not good enough to be up there. You
Ow.
shouldn't be up there.
Ow.
And so, but then to the point where it was, why not even just try? I mean, if you don't make it, who cares?
Right.
That was so last year, at like around, I guess a little over, I guess it was like 3 years I was into this. I finally was like, okay, God, I hear you. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to inquire. So I finally inquired. Oh yeah, we do auditions. So then it just became this process of dates not aligning, things like that. And to the next year, finally a date lined up that I could go. And that week I sprained and chipped my ankle. Fell down the steps with it.
Oh no, but let's back up. You were obedient. What did God ask you to do? Inquire. He
Inquire.
didn't say, I'm
Look,
going to give you all of this. He
nope.
didn't say this needs to happen. He said,
Just
child, I
look.
want you to inquire.
Yeah. So I did. And so it's so funny on that Saturday morning that I'm going to do this. I woke up and I said this. I think I'm just going to contact them and not go because you know what? And in my head, I'm like, you've got the perfect excuse. You don't
Mhm.
need to do this. And I said to my husband, I go, that's an excuse, isn't it? He goes, sure is. Sounds like a good one too. And I was like, I'm like, all right, I'm good. And then I'm just like, all right, I'm going to go. And I went. And my whole thing, when I went to the church and I met with these great kids, because I'm going to call them kids because
Yes,
they
yes.
could be my kids. And they were, it was I got to give my testimony to them. I got to
Oh,
tell them, I got to tell them about me. I got to tell them about, hey, I'm just here to see if this is something that may happen. If it doesn't happen, that's okay. And so we did the little thing and everything. They're like, you know what? We'd love for you to be here. And I'm like, what? I mean, because
I'm old enough to be your mother, but you'd love for me to be here.
like, okay. So, anyways, and to make a long story medium, as somebody said, I ended up. I've been doing this now since I think May or June. It's been really good. It's been completely out of my comfort zone,
Mm,
but it's been really good. It's been a great learning, and it has been a great stepping into something that I really believe that God was like, yeah, you're supposed to do this, and you know where the posture of your heart is.
Yeah.
So let's do this. And so being able to do that and to just let let the Holy Spirit just do its his work in me has been tremendous. And even so I'm telling people this because even when we let go of something that holds us back, sometimes we still are holding ourselves back.
Absolutely. Well, and think about the fog too. When we and I'm going to put it in an idolatry sense, which we don't talk about so much, but when we make our family, our husband, drinking, food, whatever, our comfort instead of God, we can't hear. And you
No.
talked about it also with, um, I didn't feel like I was good enough.
Mm.
So talk some more about the shame
Oh,
that follows us around, that the enemy would love to cover us in.
well, let's talk, if we want to talk about shame, it goes back to when we were kids. I mean, it really how we're imprinted and nothing my parents are wonderful parents. I had a great upbringing. But when you are little and your brain is trying to help you process life, and a parent is telling you, "Don't do that because of such and such and such." You, depending on your own personality, how do you take it? And depending on the child, like for me, it was like I felt like, oh, crushed. And then the people pleaser in
Yeah.
me was born. And she's the oldest. I'm the oldest. And so it was like, oh, well, I don't want to upset my parents. So I am going to try to do everything to be the perfect little or big sister to be able to help with everything.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that followed me. And that shame when you mess up or you don't measure up to some unrealistic expectation that was formed when you were 5 years old still keeps coming up. And I see this in myself now, but with my coaching clients, I wanna say that that is something I see a lot of.
How
It's
does the drinking dovetail into that?
Oh, well, when you feel all of this shame and you have these negative thoughts that spiral all the time, you wanna take a drink, and if you drink that, that quiets that all down.
Yeah, it puts it to sleep, right?
Puts it all yeah, but unfortunately, because it's a numbing agent, alcohol is an anesthetic, it numbs everything. It numbs everything that you're feeling, it's numb. So, if you think that you're going to an event and you're gonna have this wonderful, joyful time, your joy is numbed.
Mhm.
Your joy
All
is
the emotions are leveled out.
yeah.
And let's bring this into a bigger sphere. If you do that with food, if you do that with living somebody else's life, your children's, your husband's, anybody else's, of if they're not having a good time, then I'm not having a good time. You are all in the same space. This is the same lack of emotional sobriety because you're numbing this out. You're putting to sleep this. We almost need a creature. I'm not going to tell them about your little doll, but we almost need a creature. We're putting these emotions to sleep instead of working through them. So
Yes.
when we get alone again, when we wake up and look in the mirror, when those late night things where they're just eating at you,
Mhm.
those are the enemies that are coming at us, that God is like, take your thoughts captive, child. I never wanted you to feel this way. And that's
Yep.
what tying this into the emotional sobriety piece. And if you want to see Amy's dog, come to the summit. It's really important that you see it there. But we're tying this into this piece of shame requires that you numb it. Numbing it, as Amy said, keeps all the emotions from happening. So when you're holding that newborn, or when you're at the graduation ceremony, or when you're at the wedding, do you ever think, Amy, why am I not feeling more joyful?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to say, at least I have to say, going back and looking at my life, when my son was born, and I was not drinking when he, was born, and but so I got to feel true joy then. When we adopted our daughter, um, I was not drinking at that point either. So I'm like, okay, I had those moments, but there were other moments at either a birthday party or different things like that where I could feel the pull of alcohol versus being in the moment. Like, wait, oh yeah, make sure I have a drink.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a drink, then I can really celebrate. And that's the lie. That's the lie. I mean, when you were a child and you were at a birthday party, or you were at a girlfriend's house, or playing with your friends or whatever, you had joy. You would giggle and laugh about the silliest things. And guess what? You never had. I mean, I'm going back. I'm not high school, okay, or junior. Let's go back to
Right.
before alcohol. You could laugh and enjoy life. So that the lie is that when we get to be adults, well, life's too hard.
Yeah.
I've got to have
And what
something.
is, again, we'll go back to Paul. He's learned to be content in want, and he's learned to be content in plenty. That is shifting the enemy's lie to the point where it says, hey, we know the end of the story. We
Yeah.
know God's got this. We know he has good plans for us. And when we numb down those shame feelings, when we numb down the grief feelings, when we numb down the sadness, what we're not doing is going to our maker and saying, hey, I feel this way. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel these. I feel this way. How do you want me to deal with it?
Yeah.
Where do you want me to lay this down at your feet? What do you want me to look like? This to look like? And before we got on here, you were talking about the fit church. And I want you to bring that in a little bit about how church, I truly believe churches should be hospitals where places, people who can come who are sick and they need healing, and that should be available. I belong to a Celebrate Recovery supporting church. I think that's a fantastic place. But there also, what is also in the hospital? Doctors, nurses, fitness people, people who can help you really live your life. So tell us, you've really had some profound thought processes around this.
Well, I have to say, this is the book, Fit Church. And for me, I've been on a fitness, health and wellness journey for a long time.
Right.
I mean, I have. And it's been an up and down. It's been an up and down. And then letting go of alcohol, that was huge. I mean, that was like, as some people call it, that was the first domino to fall. And now the next domino has been like getting my, health and fitness and everything. And as you know, with the algorithm, all of a sudden this gentleman, young guy, pops up and he's talking about getting healthy, that we need to be doing this in our church and everything. And I found this book, and he truly does just dive into our identity and how being somebody who's healthy, how that we can do so much more.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're not healthy, we can't minister to people like we want to.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me was, I'm like, well, this is huge. And I know you and I have talked. I mean, when you go into church and you have, like, our church has a coffee bar and has donuts for sale and all of these things. And I'm sitting there, and it's been a big conflict for me. Like, we're not offering anything healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, you go in, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to have this, sugary latte or whatever. And I'm not saying, maybe for some people that's like their Sunday treat. Maybe it's something like that. But we are not doing a great job with that. We're not we're not being a hospital to people who are clearly needing some support. And I am speaking from somebody who has needed some support around my eating.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. I told you I have to run from that table. I have to replace my thoughts about that table. And we are not saying that sugar, when you choose to eat it, is the devil. It's not. It's like money. It is the love of sugar and the love of money, where you put it above. You
Yes.
use this numbing out technique. And I know why churches do it. They're bringing people in, they're satisfying some things for some people. It's just an awareness that this the weapon of mass destruction for the United States and for Western world is the fork. I mean, we are killing ourselves by
Yes.
eating destructive prepackaged foods. And I don't want to get off on that soapbox. Where I was going with this was breaking bread together is certainly biblical. It's important. It's a way that we share ourselves with others. The question is, when we're looking at the fitness of the church, have we tipped so far into this hospital, everybody needs to feel good, that we're not looking at, hey, maybe this is a dopamine hit, but is it costing us in the long run,
Mm-hmm.
or this
Yeah.
short little, I don't know what it is. It's not more than probably 2-minute dopamine hit. Is it really costing me?
And we wouldn't have a bar in the church. I mean,
Right.
I'm just, we don't have gaming stations in the church.
Yes.
We don't have those types of things in the church. And again, I'm not saying that, but maybe just have some healthier options. Could we have a few, could we have a little, I mean, I don't know. But I'm with you because we have a small group, and I think our small group, because it was like, oh, and have something to eat at your small group.
Right.
Well, guess what? The past few weeks, like, people are bringing something, and no one, like, I don't know if even half the people are eating it. So we're putting it to a vote. We're like, guys, nobody seems to be interested in this. So do we even need it?
Right.
And
And that's what I think you're talking about with the fit church is, how do you empower yourself to be the change? How do you empower yourself to see this differently instead of putting those guilt, shame, worry, emotions? Because I don't know about you, I'm pretty extroverted, but if I'm feeling uncomfortable in the room, guess where I am? I'm over at the food table. Because I'm putting something in my mouth that gives me something to do, right? It just makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. I
and
don't
that's
think that's what biblically we're supposed to do
no,
with breaking bread together.
no, I agree. I think we're supposed to. Well, isn't it like anything? Like, the thing that we need and we want and we're longing for is the connection with individuals together,
Yes,
right?
not the lemon bars.
Exactly. And so we do this connection, but we wrap it up in this thought process from society saying, "Oh, you got to have something to eat if you're going
Yeah,
to gather,"
yeah,
right? And saying, "Why am I doing this?
yes,
Why,
absolutely,
why am I doing this? Is
absolutely.
this, everything, there is a verse that's everything is permissible, but is everything beneficial?"
Right. So it says, I have the power to go and do this, whatever that is, to eat a pound of brownies, to do all those things. And that's not against God's law, but is it beneficial for me in connecting with God Himself?
Yeah.
Is it beneficial for me connecting with my family, with myself, not abandoning myself? There's all of those things going on.
Mhm. And if you do that and then you have that disconnect, then you are right back into that shame cycle.
Oh,
Why did I do this? And it just
once you
goes
put the
on.
wheel up, it
Yeah.
just keeps doing this. And that's where, you're the hamster on the hamster wheel going, why am I here again? You're waking up in the morning and going, why am I here again? Why am I here again? That's the piece where Paul is looking at us going, okay, you can continue to be here again, or you can learn to be happy in want or in plenty and know where your source is instead of going to resources like food and drink and movies and whatever, books. I mean, there was a time that lunch wasn't getting made because I was reading a book series, right? And I had little kids. Amy, thank you so much for this discussion, for bringing in the Fit Church. That's by Matthew Gay. I also want to tease out the audience that Amy has so much more. You haven't even seen half of it that she has to share with us about handling the chaos of addiction, handling in a marriage, and what it is that you can step in and do today, actually. So join us for the summit on October 24th. Again, a free summit. We'll have links down below. We would love for you to get on the wait list. And we have all kinds of goodie bag things that go in there. In fact, Amy, you're sharing some of your material. Tell us a little bit more about what you're sharing.
Yeah, it is the God Tools. And I don't remember what I titled it, but God Tools for family members who are supporting somebody who is going through their addiction and how to be supportive to them. So that is one of the guides that I'm giving. And then also, I believe that we put in there our weekly marriage meeting guide. And that is something that Matt and I do each week. It's something that our marriage couples, coaches, trainers, they had, and we have been using, and it has brought so much connection to our relationship. And we were even laughing because the great thing about the guide is it literally has a script. And I would firmly say, use the script. As awkward as it feels, if you have not been in a good, spot or communicating with your spouse, because it does help you. And over time, you will not be using that script. Over time, it's just going to come so much naturally to you. We even laughed because I am one of those people, where's my script? I want my script. I'm going to be able to do this. And, but it just helps you go through this. You're supporting, you're affirming what is something that you're excited about in the week. What is something that your spouse has done this week that has really filled you up and that you appreciate? That's one of those things that we talk about. And then your spouse will do the same for you. And it doesn't have to be anything big. It could be just something like, what I really appreciate. And this is what I told him this week. It's that time of the year where you're going to have your furnace checked. And I go,
Yes.
You do that. And I go, I don't have to think about that. You do that. He went out and he was spraying for bugs because it's fall and the bugs are going to be coming in now because as it gets cooler. So it's just those little things that we take for granted, and being able to verbalize those and say that to our spouse in a loving way, bringing up things that are, worrying us, like, oh, this is something that big that's on my plate. And to be able to walk through that. And I will tell you that sometimes our marriage meetings are 15 minutes long. It's just a boom, boom, boom. Hey, we're good. But we've had others that last for an hour. Really connecting. There's also a whole list of curiosity questions to get to know each other even more. And so I would just, I just know for me and Matt and several people that I know who have gotten it, they're just like, this is just such a game changer. We love it. So
if you want this, you need to show up at the summit.
Yeah.
Amy's got all this ready for you. And again, this is done with affirmation and love and caring. It isn't that double hipper of, well, why didn't you rake the leaves? It's time to rake the leaves. This is how you really get things done. How God gets things done with us is He praises us. He gives us gentle reminders. He gets us moving forward in a loving way. Amy, thank you so much for being here. Tell us where we can find you.
You can find me at joyontheotherside.com, or you can find us on YouTube, places that you're going to listen to podcasts at the Alcohol Free Marriage and More podcast. And we would love for you to join us. And we are going to be having a guest coming on very soon. Tanya has agreed to come on hopefully in the next week or two. So we are really looking forward to that. So
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy.
thank you.
You, beloved listener, are creative, resourceful, and whole. Do you want to add more purpose to your sober journey? Do you want to make room for the new and make your dreams a reality? Apply today for a dream session. Go to tanyajoya.com. That's TANYAGIOIA.com and apply today. Let's get you dreaming about your new purpose.